Hello and good afternoon. Welcome to another session of Creative Corner. We are going to be working on some clay pinch pots, but before we go ahead and get into the demonstration, let's go ahead and go over what we will be working with. So, the type of clay that I have is Crayola air dry clay. You're more than welcome to use any type of air dry clay that you want. You can also use oven baked clay if you want. But I do caution you, if you use oven bake, make sure you have an adult supervision in order to operate the oven itself. I also do have some inspiration items with me. And to make sure that our work surface stays clean, I have a piece of parchment paper right in front of me. And because I have my nails done, I also have a pair of gloves that we're going to be using. So let's go ahead and get started on today's demonstration. I went ahead and rolled up my jacket sleeves and put on my gloves. I also have a nice sizable chunk of clay in front of me. If you would like, we also have some supply kits available through our curbside checkout services. If you would like to do this at home, you'll get roughly this same size ball of clay, so that way you can do this, like I said, at home. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and divide this chunk of clay in half. And by doing so, we're going to be doing two different projects. So I'm going to change my ball of clay into a nice looking burrito, approximating the middle, twisting and ripping the burrito of clay in half. We're going to save half of that for later. And we're going to work on the first half. Now, I did get a nice bowl for inspiration, and this is made out of ceramic. So, to protect the bowl itself, I also have a sheet of plastic wrap. I'm just going to wrap this around the bowl itself, just so that way the clay doesn't stick to my bowl. Smooth it out, and the nice wrinkles will give the inside of the clay some nice texture. I'm going to put this off to the side. I also have a plastic spoon to smooth out the edges, which we'll do a little bit later. Now with the ball of clay, I'm just going to go ahead and flatten this. Now, as you may have seen on our website or through our social media channels, pinch pots is one of the oldest forms of pottery known to human civilization. And all it takes is just your fingers, and you're just going to mold the clay just by pinching it like little crabs. You want to make sure though that when you're working with it, you don't want the sides to start tearing. So I'm going to use my fingers to mash it back together. Because we have modern technology, you can use a rolling pin if you want to. You can also use cookie cutters to make some interesting shapes and designs. I'm just going to use my hands to do this. Now that I have a nice shape, I'm going to go ahead and take this clay and fix it on top of my bowl and start giving it some shape. And as you can see, not quite sure if you can see on camera, but I have these little cracks forming, and that's what this spoon is for. I'm just going to lightly press on the surface. Starting from the middle and lightly pressing down. Sometimes you can just slide over the surface just to smooth out the edges, but occasionally your spoon will catch on the clay itself, so that's when you just tap down, rub, and it'll smooth out. If you like to, lift up the bowl, take a look at it, make sure it looks nice and even. I always just like to press firmly on the clay itself and use my thumb on the edges, just so that way the rim of the bowl looks a little nice. As mentioned previously, if you're working with oven baked clay, be sure to have adult supervision. Follow directions for cooking on the labeling itself. But since this is air dry clay, this is going to take roughly 2 to 3 days in order to dry. And then all you need to do is just take it off the plastic wrap, flip it over, and it'll be good to go. And I think this is going to be it for our bowl. So we'll go ahead and put that off to the side, let it dry for those 2 to 3 days. Now I have this other half of the ball of clay that we had at the beginning of the video, and I am going to attempt to make this cup. It's not going to be an exact replica, but it's going to be a nice challenge for us. Before I get started, I'm going to break off a small chunk of this clay so that way I can make the handle of the cup. Put that off to the side. Same method we've used with the bowl itself. We're just going to use our fingers to mold and shape the actual clay itself. So I'm going to get my thumb, make an indent in the middle. Kind of mold this around my thumb a little. And then we just use our fingers to make the shape. You may need your spoon too as well, just to mold the inside a little. And again, you're just going to use your fingers, pinch it. It's starting to look more like a bowl. So I'm just going to use my hands, push it in from all sides. Use the flatness of the table to make the bottom of the cup. You want to be careful to not make it too thin, otherwise you're going to risk tearing the clay itself. I can also use the spoon to make a interesting design inside the cup itself. You can use one side as well as the other side. Using the spoon to smooth out these edges, make it nice and rounded. And we're almost done with this one. Just use my hands to flatten the lip a little. So in order to make the handle of the cup, I'm going to go ahead and roll the extra clay that I put off to the side into a nice ball. And then, slowly but surely, you're going to transform the ball into a burrito, but then elongating it to look more like a snake. And because your hands themselves have a natural indentation, you want to make sure to continue to flip the clay so that way it's nice and even across. And then once I'm happy with this length, I'm going to attempt to attach it to the cup. Using your spoon, and make little cuts into the clay itself. I'm going to do that to the side of the cup as well. And what these cuts are going to do is that the clay is going to mash together to create a nice suction, so that way the handle, in theory, will not fall off. And all you need to do is just get your spoon, smooth out the seam, and I've made my handle too large, so I'm gonna try to guess the size of the bottom of the handle. Gotta be very careful. Gonna do the same cuts. And then just use a spoon to, or whatever utensil you're working with. You can also use a popsicle stick just to smooth out these edges. And then once you're done, you're just going to leave this clay to dry. You can also shape your cup handle if you want to. And I think we have it. So this is a nice little cup design. And we also have a ball off to the side. Just move this and grab the bowl so I can show you. And then whatever you don't use, you can go ahead and use on a separate project. But again, this is a clay pinch pot design. It's one of the oldest forms of pottery. We have a nice bowl, we have a nice cup with a handle attached to it. Thank you for joining me on today's session for a Creative Corner. Today we did some clay pinch pots. We have this very lovely clay bowl that's drying on a ceramic bowl itself. And then we also use a ceramic cup as a model to make a nice little pinch pot cup. Again, you're going to follow the instructions if you're using air dry clay. Air dry clay takes roughly about 2 to 3 days to fully dry completely. If you're using oven baked clay, make sure you follow the directions. Preheat your oven before you start this. And make sure if you're doing this with kids, make sure you have adult supervision. But before we leave, I also want to tell you that this week, Friday, on the 18th, we are going to be doing a live Harry Potter bingo. You can request your very own bingo cards through our curbside checkout services as well. But if you also would like a supply kit for the clay pinch pots, you can also go to that. The form itself is available through our website, and if you can't navigate it, or if you're having some difficulties, you're more than welcome to give us a phone call, and we will be happy to assist you over the phone. Thank you very much, and have a good rest of your day.